Hey friends, welcome back to my kitchen. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jen. I do cooking, canning, and food preservation videos every Tuesday, and I post vlog content on Friday. If that's the sort of thing that you're into, I really hope that you'll consider subscribing and sticking around. Today we're going to be making lemon zucchini bread. This is a really easy recipe, and if you're a lemon lover like I am, you will really like this because the lemon zest in this recipe just really kicks it up. So you're going to want to start by zesting 2 medium to large size lemons. If you don't have a lemon zester, you can use a planer, a microplane, a cheese grater. You just have to be very careful not to get the white parts. Once you've got your lemons zested, you're going to go ahead and juice both of those lemons into a small bowl. Now, if your lemons aren't super juicy, you may need an extra. So when you're buying your ingredients for this recipe, go ahead and buy an extra just in case. For me, 2 was perfect, and I actually had a little bit of lemon juice left over at the end. So just consider, what season it is, if citrus is in season where you live, and the quality of the lemons that you're purchasing. And after we get our lemons all juiced, we're going to move on to the zucchini. Now the recipe asks for 2 small to medium zucchinis. I'm working with a really large one here, but the end result is 2 cups of shredded zucchini is what you'll need to make a 2-loaf recipe. Now, if you only want 1 loaf of this lemon zucchini bread, cut all of this in half. You'll use 1 cup of zucchini. This is me trying to figure out if I can grate this zucchini left-handed. I am right-handed, so I'm just going to measure this into my 1 cup measure. And if you've been putting away zucchini in the freezer over the summer because you're a gardener, or you like to go to farmers markets, or you have a neighbor that gardens and is constantly giving you zucchini, those little 2-cup bags of zucchini that you froze will be perfect for this recipe, so go ahead and get them out and get them thawed. Whether you're using fresh zucchini or frozen zucchini, you do not want to drain the juice off of it or squeeze it out. We need the extra liquid from the zucchini to help loosen up our batter, and you'll see that here in just a few minutes. Now into a large bowl, I'm going to put 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Again, this is for a 2-loaf recipe. Cut those measurements in half if you only want 1. So 3 cups of all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of baking powder, and I'm also going to add a teaspoon of baking soda. And then once I get all of that in there, I'm going to go ahead and get my metal wire whisk and whisk all of this together just to make sure that all of the baking powder, salt, and baking soda is distributed throughout the flour and there are no big clumps of baking soda or baking powder that might show up in the batter later, because if you have ever bitten into a clump of baking soda, it is not pleasant and it will ruin the entire experience. So just give it a quick whisk. Then into another bowl, I'm going to add 2 cups of sugar. You can use whatever sugar you like. I'm just using regular old white sugar, nothing fancy. And to this sugar, I'm going to go ahead and add my lemon zest. And once you get all of your lemon zest in here with the sugar, you're just going to use the ends of your fingers to rub the lemon zest between the sugar granules. This is going to help to force the natural oil in the lemon peel out into the sugar itself. And you'll know when you've done this long enough because you will be able to smell it. When those oils come out and go into that sugar, it is going to get super fragrant and it is going to smell absolutely lovely. So just give it a good mix in there. You don't have to worry about being gentle. And then to my sugar mixture, I'm going to add 3 large eggs. This is the point at which we're pretty much adding all of the wet ingredients. And I'm not going to even bother stirring this until the end because we're going to want to kind of whisk it and make sure that everything is incorporated nicely. So no point in mixing it more than once. Just get everything in there and then mix it at the end. Now you're going to need a cup of oil. You can use light olive oil, something without a lot of flavor. I'm using avocado oil because that's what I had. If you like vegetable oil or sunflower oil, by all means, use whatever you prefer. It's your kitchen and you're making this for yourself. But for me, I'm using avocado oil. I'm also going to add 1 tablespoon of that lemon juice that we squeezed out earlier. And then I'm going to put this bowl to the side because we're going to need this later when we do the glaze for the top of the cake. I'm doing a teaspoon and a half of vanilla, but you know, if you're one of those people that likes to just throw a glug in there and measure it with your soul, by all means, add as much vanilla makes you happy. And then once we get it in there, just going to mix it really well, make sure that we have all of the egg whites and egg yolks incorporated. The sugar is all mixed up and hydrated. And then from there, we're going to add our dry ingredients right into this bowl on top of the wet ingredients. And it was at this point I realized, of course, I put the dry ingredients in the bigger bowl when it should have been the other way around, but that's okay. We'll make it work. So I'm just going to dump it right in and I'm going to give it a mix. Now I decided to start with my whisk, but this batter does become very thick very fast. So I just used the whisk to sort of start incorporating the flour in, and then I switched back to my rubber spatula because as you'll see here in just a second, this batter starts to actually resemble cookie dough more than it does bread batter. Do not be concerned when you see this dough get all stiff like this, because now we're going to add our 2 cups of zucchini in, and all of that liquid that I told you not to squeeze out of that zucchini is going to loosen this batter right back up. And you'll see as I'm mixing and folding the zucchini into the batter that it slowly starts to become more pliable and easier to stir. Now I'm not going to sit and make you watch me stir this the whole, few minutes that it took to get the zucchini incorporated. But here at the end, you will see how much looser and pourable this batter actually is. It turned out really nice. So just be patient and work with the zucchini. I'm using 2 standard bread pans to make this. You could probably make 1 big loaf, but it's going to take a lot longer to cook than these 2 separate ones did. And I don't mind the bread being a little bit thinner. So yeah, you're just going to want to spray them with whatever kind of nonstick spray you use. You could, rub a little shortening on the pan, whatever it is you like to do to keep your bread from sticking. And then I'm going to split this batter between both of these pans as evenly as I possibly can. I was actually pretty impressed with myself at the end because they both ended up pretty close to being the same size. So just do the best you can with this so that they cook kind of at the same rate. It's not a matter of them being different sizes as much as it is making sure that both loaves cook at the same speed and rate. So once I get this batter split between both of these pans, I'm not going to bang the pans on the counter. Now you might be tempted to try to bang them and get the air bubbles out, but we want air bubbles. We're using baking powder and baking soda in this, and we want to keep those air bubbles in this bread so that it helps it rise up in the oven. So I am going to give it a little bit of a shake just to kind of smooth out the top of the loaves so there's not a big lump in the middle, but not aggressive. Don't go banging this all over the counter or your bread is going to be very flat. So I'm going to put this into a preheated oven and bake these at 325 degrees for 60 minutes. And when I pull them out of the oven, I'm going to move them to a cooling rack and I'm not going to take them out of the pans. Make sure that you use a toothpick or a skewer to check to make sure that your bread is done in the middle. The skewer will pull out clean if your bread is finished. So I let those sit for a little while, and once they were cool enough to get them out of the pan, I went ahead and took them out of the pan, and I put another pan underneath my cooling rack. We're moving on to the glaze. I'm using 2 cups of powdered sugar, and I'm going to start with just a couple of tablespoons of that lemon juice that we set to the side. I started with 3, and I think I actually ended up using 4 before it was all done, just because 3, it was still a little tight. Now, if you wanted to frost this like a cake, I would stick with 3. If you wanted to be able to do the pour over method, which is what I did, add that extra tablespoon of the lemon juice so that it is pourable. Just make sure you get all of the lumps out. And then I'm just going to pour this over the cooled bread. This recipe is seriously so simple. And I honestly am thinking about trying this again and adding some blueberries. I have a really soft spot in my heart for lemon and blueberries together. It's just something about it. So good, the sweetness from the blueberry and the tartness from the lemon. So I might give that a try and have to keep you guys updated on that. But just put as much of this glaze on the top as you like. If you only like a little bit of sweetness, then just put a little. If you want it doused, then by all means, douse away. This is personal preference. Not everybody likes things super sweet, and I think that's what the big difference between a bread like this, a sweet bread, versus a cake is. You know, cakes can be almost nauseatingly sweet, and this isn't over the top sweet. It seems like it should be because, you know, there was 2 cups of sugar in it, but honestly, it was delicious. Everybody loved it, so you just want to let these sit for a little while after you glaze them so that that glaze can set up, and then enjoy. I really hope that you'll consider giving this recipe a try, and if you do, by all means, please come back and leave me a comment and let me know what you thought about this lemon zucchini bread. Did you change the recipe in any way? Did you add anything different? What did you do to make this recipe your own? Until next time, friends, happy cooking.